Hi everyone, my name is Dennis Gomez and today I will be presenting to you Lab 5 Challengers Hacking Skills. In Lab 5 Part 1, I will be discussing 5 parts. Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D, and Part E. The first part is Part A, in which I will be discussing Metasploitable 2 VM penetration testing. The way I plan, organize, and perform penetration testing on the Metasploitable 2 VM is by first finding the Metasploitable 2 VM IP address by running the following nmap command. nmap 192.168.56.0/24. Next, after I identified the Metasploitable 2 VM 192.168.56.101, I perform another nmap command to find the network services OS version and version of network processors by running the next command. nmap/sv/o 192.168.56.101. The /sv is for services and the /o is for the operating system. The following command provided information regarding the network services, OS version, and network processors of the Metasploitable 2 VM. I was able to identify multiple vulnerabilities. The one that got my attention is the BSFTPD 2.34 vulnerability that can be exploited by remote attackers to bypass access restrictions. After identifying the vulnerability, I decided to exploit this vulnerability using Metasploit. To start the Metasploit tool in Kali VM, type MSF console. In the fourth step, I exploited the BSFTPD 2.3.4 vulnerability by typing the following command. Use exploit /unix/bsftpd/234/backdoor. After running this command, I targeted the Metasploitable machine by typing the rhost to 192.168.56.101. After running both commands, I was successfully able to get root access to the Metasploitable 2 VM by installing a backdoor that allowed me to start a command shell session in the target's host. The next slide, I confirm root access by navigating to the boot folder and listing all the documents. On the image on the left, number 1, I confirm I gain root access to the Metasploitable 2 VM by typing pwd. Then I type ls-l and you show me the root folders on the Metasploitable 2 VM on the left. All these are the folders. On the image on the right, I type that same ls-l command as an MSF admin on the Metasploitable 2 VM to show you that I was able to pull the same root folders as I did with my exploit. So these folders on the left are the same folders on the right, and this is my Kali, and I was able to gain root access to the Metasploitable 2 VM. Additionally, I was able to find the usernames and the encrypted password stored in the Metasploitable 2 VM machine by using the cat/etc/shadow command. This information can be downloaded and a password decrypting tool can be used to decipher the cipher password strings downloaded from the Metasploitable 2 VM. Penetration testing. Penetration testing is valuable to an organization because it can help them discover network and system vulnerabilities. As a network administrator, penetration testing can help you identify any system and network vulnerabilities to be able to harden and secure them before hackers can exploit them. If a hacker successfully exploits a vulnerability, they can gain root access, leak data, and cause service disruption. There's 3 types of penetration testing. On the white box, the pen tester is provided as much information as possible to perform the penetration testing. In a black box, the penetration testing is not provided with any information about the network or systems. In a gray box, the penetration tester is provided some information but not all. The way I would handle failures in following procedures is by first warning my supervisor and IT security team. Second, I will ask my team to perform a procedure verification to mitigate any financial risks. Third, I will perform a procedure audit to verify if it's correctly used and up to date. If the procedure does not work correctly, I will work with my team to seek procedure resolution. Once the procedure is resolved, we will submit it for approval to upper management. If approved, we will communicate the new procedure to the personnel. Every year, we will perform a procedure audit to keep procedures current and validated. If a procedure is outdated or incorrect, we will submit it for a procedure management review for a merit resolution. The next part is Part B. In Part B, I perform web vulnerability scans with different web vulnerability scanners such as Nikto, Nessus, OWASP, SAP, and Nmap. To perform a vulnerability scan using Nmap, you type nmap-sv-0-192.168.56.101. To perform a vulnerability scan using Nikto, you type nikto-h192.168.56.101. In OWASP, to perform a vulnerability scan, you type 192, the host, and then press attack. OWASP uses a more user-friendly interface to let you type and press attack. Nessus scan is one of my favorite scanners as it is more detailed in the explanation of the vulnerabilities. As you can see, it tells you the vulnerabilities, the remediations, the notes, the top threats, and the history. This will give you a more detailed information, and to perform a vulnerability scan, you type the target host and then start the vulnerability scan. Part C of this lab, I perform a risk assessment and gap analysis based on the findings from the second scan. Additionally, I investigated current trends in cybersecurity. The risk assessment and gap analysis is the following. The first, the remote web server contains a version of PHP that is susceptible to arbitrary code execution. The PHP installation of the remote server contains a flaw that could allow a remote hacker to execute commands that could reveal PHP source code or cause denial of service. The second one, the remote SSH host keys are weak. The impact score of the first vulnerability was 9.4 and is the most critical, the PHP vulnerability. The second, the SSH weak keys impact score is 7.4 and is considered a high threat. The remote X509 certificate on the remote SSL server generated by the Debian Ubuntu system contains a bug in the random number generator that is vulnerable to a man-in-the-middle attack. The third vulnerability is the web server hosts a PHP application that is affected by SQL injection vulnerability. The impact score is 6.7 and the threat is medium. The outdated PHP MyAdmin application on the remote web server is vulnerable to SQL injection attack that can manipulate SQL queries in the backend database that can result in a data breach or data tampering. The fourth vulnerability is the remote mail service allows plain text command injection. The impact score is a 6.3 and the threat is a medium. An attacker could steal a victim's email or associated SASL, simple authentication and security layer, credentials because of the remote SMTP service contains a software flaw in its start TLS. Number 5 is the remote name server is affected by service downgrade reflected DOS vulnerabilities. The impact score is 6 and the threat is medium. An unauthenticated remote attacker can exploit the bind9 service downgrade vulnerability to use the affected service as a reflector in a reflection attack. The sixth vulnerability is that it is possible to access network file system NFS shares on the remote host. The impact score is 5.9 and the threat is medium. An attacker may be able to access NFS shares exported by the remote server and read and write files on the remote host. The remediation to mitigate vulnerabilities is the first for the PHP vulnerability. If using Lotus operating system, upgrade to version 1.2.2b or later. If using PHP, upgrade to version 5.3.13. For the weak SSH host keys, regenerate all SSH, SSL, and OpenVN keys with strong and complex certificates. For the SQL vulnerability, upgrade to PHPMyAdmin version 4.8.6 or later. Apply necessary updates. For the SMTP flaw, encrypt SMTP communication channels, secure the port with necessary strong configurations, and apply any patches. For the BIND9 service downgrade vulnerability, upgrade to BIND 9.11.22, 9.16.6 and 9.17.4 or later. For the NFS flaw, configure NFS on the remote host so the only authorized host can mount its remote shares. How does strategy reduce risk and hardens your system? The strategy can help reduce risk by planning an incident response plan to mitigate risk before, during, or after an attack. Hardening your system can help minimize the attack surface of your system and secure it from remote unauthorized access. A great strategy to reduce risk and harden your system includes conducting a risk assessment to determine vulnerabilities, establish network access controls, implement firewall and antivirus software, create a patch management schedule, continuously monitor network traffic, and build an incident response plan. Part D, System Hardening. The three changes I made is update /rc.d/ftelnet and remove. So I disabled these two services, telnet and SMTP. I changed the permit root logging to no so that it doesn't allow root access, and I upgraded the applications. I rerun the Nessus scan, and as you can see, the previous vulnerabilities are no longer shown. The telnet, the SMTP, the PHPMyAdmin was updated to version 5.3.13, and the rest of the applications were upgraded. Part E is the change implementation. In Part E, I explain why I implemented the changes in Part D. I decided to perform the PHP upgrade to 5.3.13 because it was the earliest safe upgrade where the organization would be secure against any remote arbitrary code execution. Additionally, the PHP upgrade was necessary because it ranked the most critical in the risk assessment. I decided to disable the telnet service to prevent the system of a remote attack where the hacker would have full control of the device with a high privilege account. I decided to disable the SMTP service to prevent an attacker from stealing a user's email address or associated SASL, Simple Authenticator and Security layer. I decided to disable the root access to prevent hackers from gaining root access to the machine. The lessons learned in this lab was that it is important to apply the latest patches in applications to protect them against any known and unknown vulnerabilities. The second lesson was that system and networking hardening is an important aspect to protect against cyber attacks. The third and last lesson is that implementing a strategy with the risk assessment, network access controls, firewalls, antivirus software, patch management, network monitoring, and an incident response plan can mitigate risks after, before, and during an attack. These are my resources, and I hope you have a great day.